All right, excuse me. If I could get all your attention, if you could find your table, we want to get started pretty soon. Hey, if there's someone next to you who doesn't hear, if you could give them a hand and help clue them in, that'd be great. Okay, so it seems the audio works well remotely. Hopefully all of you in the room can hear me as well. Some people in the back, if you could help me with getting others to maybe take their seat, that'd be very helpful. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. So welcome to the hackathon. It's great to have so many people here, even if there's some challenges that come with that. But it's wonderful to see a full room. I hope you've all been able to find each other, find a table that you like. If you haven't yet, don't worry about that, because there'll be time after this to kind of get sorted out into your teams. Especially when we have this many people, this many teams, this many tables, it can be a little bit of a challenge. But with that, let me get going. First, just one reminder. I have the pleasure of reminding everyone that at this meeting we are required to wear masks, except when you're speaking up at the front like I am now, or obviously we have food and that back there too. So when you're eating, drinking, it's fine to take off your mask. But otherwise, please just be mindful of those around you and help everyone stay safe and comfortable and by wearing your mask and wearing it appropriately. Would appreciate that. So I have a few questions I like to ask at the beginning of each hackathon to give me and everyone else a sense in the room, because I think the hackathon's a great event for newcomers to the IETF, and this is one way I try to validate that. So for how many of you this is your first time at an IETF hackathon? All right, that's fantastic to see. So, you know, I'm glad to see that trend continue, that this continues to be a good event that encourages new people to come. And I hope at the end of it that you feel it was a worthwhile use of your time and a really great. And if you have thoughts about what would have made it better for you, let me and my co-chairs know, because you know, we're very excited to have you here. Now, maybe this is somewhat similar, but if this is your first experience with the IETF at all, you've never been to any IETF event before, how many of you are fit into that camp? So not quite as many, but still a significant number. And yeah, that's also fantastic to see. And I'm quite biased, but I think that the hackathon's a great way to get started with the IETF. And again, I think and hope you will too. So hopefully the experience is great for you. And then, you know, I almost took this question down, but I think we're starting to get near what I hope is a better way of dealing with COVID. But for how many of you, this is your first time at an in-person event since COVID? So still a fair number of people there too. And I think, you know, that's one of the reasons too why we want to make sure we're careful with the mask, because depending on where you are in the world, there's different kind of rules and situations there. So it's just better for everyone if we follow that. So thank you. So I think we're all pretty much aware of this, but I still like to go over it. The reason why we're here, it's really to improve our work around IETF standards and to accelerate that. So to kind of be more collaborative, bring more development into working on the standards that we've been defining within IETF. and to test things out and to see if they work or not, whether they've already been defined or in existing RFCs, or whether it's, you know, new ideas that we're thinking about and we have internet drafts around. And it's also a great way, I think, to bring a different set of skills and to invite developers to come in and work hand in hand with a lot of the people who have traditionally been defining the standards. So and we want this to be a good way to welcome those people in and really help you get active and contributing to the IETF right away in a way that's very valuable to the IETF. So as with everything we do in the IETF, the hackathon does fall under the note well. If you haven't familiarized yourself with this, it's kind of hard to read, very hard to read on this version, but you can download the slides and you can find the note well on the IETF website too. And just make sure you're aware of the rules under which you're participating here. Now, in terms of the rules under which you're participating, the code that you're working on likely has a license associated with it. And so you should be familiar with that too, because the code you're working on is not necessarily IETF property. It's probably, there's probably a license associated with it, and that governs the rules around the code you're using and how you use it, distribute it, contribute to it. So make sure you look at that. Now, we have a whole lot of projects. Last I saw, we were well over 30 projects. I didn't count today, but they're all on the Hackathon Wiki. Hopefully you found the Hackathon Wiki. That's kind of your source of truth for this whole event. That's where things get updated. So if there's new projects, new information, if the agenda changes in any way, we'll update it on the Hackathon Wiki first, and then information kind of propagates from there. So take a look at those projects. Hopefully one or more of them resonates with you. If you haven't found a project yet and you need some help, you know, finding a spot or a team to work with, you're welcome to come up here and we'll help you out. The table that I'm at right here in the front and center and help get you situated. We also have a web page that is called Lost and Found, and that's really to serve two purposes. One is if you're a participant looking for a project, it's a way that you can kind of share, oh, hey, I'm looking for a team. Here are some things I'm interested in, or some of the skills I can bring to the team. Likewise, if you're leading a project and you're looking for a particular skill set or people, you can advertise there that that's what you need. And so that's another way to try to match up people with teams. So you can take a look at that too. There's a link to that on the wiki. Okay, the agenda. So we're at the kickoff and we're using MeetEcho for that. The rest of the day, we won't be using MeetEcho here in the room. We'll be using Gather, and you might want to use Gather to meet up with people who are participating remotely. We do have a number of people doing that. Lunch will be provided kind of in that same area, so you don't need to leave and go out for lunch. Of course, you still can if you want, but we try to make it easy for you to stay here and continue to work on your project. So lunch will be brought in. We'll have some snacks in the afternoon. We'll even have dinner, and it's a pretty nice dinner from what I hear. So hopefully you can stay for that. It'd be great if you can stay with us the whole evening. The doors will close at 9 o'clock. And so at 9 o'clock, we really do ask that you leave. And that allows the hotel staff to come in, clean things up, and shut everything down, and lets them get it home, you know, at a reasonable time as well. So if you want to continue working on your projects after 9 o'clock, that's perfectly fine. Just don't do it in this room, right? The network's up everywhere, except when the power goes out. And so you should be able to work on it wherever you want, and that's fine. So there's no rules around when you can and can't work on your project. It's just that the room closes at 9 p.m. It'll then open up again tomorrow morning, as it did today. Certainly by 9:30 in the morning, everything will be open, and there'll be some snacks back there again. And then lunch will be provided again. And then a really important thing, especially for those of you who are new and you may not have seen this agenda before, is we have these sharing of results of your project. And this is voluntary, you don't have to do it, but it's a really good way to give a short summary of what you did, what your team did, what you accomplished, and what you learned, and what you're going to bring back into, say, an IETF working group based on how your project went. We like to hear about those types of things. So this is an opportunity for you to share with everyone just a very brief presentation. And so those happen starting at 2 o'clock and run till about 4 o'clock, or however long it takes us to get through all of them. So if you plan on doing that, which I suggest you do, that means you need to plan on wrapping up your project and start working on your few slides, your summary. Give yourself enough time to do that so that you have that ready and you can upload it to GitHub before we do the presentations. And I have some slides that show you more details about that. And then the hackathon ends at 4 o'clock, and then we ask that everyone collect your stuff and make sure you're out of here by 5 so that the room can be set again for the rest of the IETF week. Any questions on the agenda? Yeah, there is a mic up here if you don't mind coming up to it. That way remote participants can hear it too. Oh yes, is there a hacker's lounge or the code lounge? It'll actually be here. And I have a slide about that too, but yeah, there will be that. So you do have the ability after the hackathon. That's a really good point. You can continue to work on your projects really all week. And I think that's a great idea. We just kind of have this focus thing the weekend before, but there's no reason you need to stop coding things. So I encourage you to do that all week. I mentioned Gather before. We started using Gather when we had the online-only hackathon. Online-only hackathon and the online-only IETF meetings. And we continue to have it as a great tool, especially if you have some people who are remote, who are joining your project. You're welcome to use Gather. What is shown here is kind of what the screen is when you first come into Gather. And you'll see that on the right-hand side, there's arrows pointing to get to the hackathon space. There's a separate space within Gather just for the hackathon. So if you follow those arrows to the right, you'll enter into this space, which is separate just for the hackathon. And you'll see there's some tables there, not as many as are in here, but those of you who want can kind of pick a table, let your team know that you're meeting at that table, and you can use that for the duration of the hackathon. In the event we run out of tables, I'm pretty sure we can create some more within the virtual space. That hasn't been an issue in the past. So just kind of pick your table, and usually by sitting your virtual self at the table is a really good way to kind of pick it for your team. So HackNet, this is an optional thing that's available. If some of you who are working on internet protocols, you may need special kind of network setups. And with HackNet, we have the ability to accommodate some of those. So if you have special networking needs beyond using the IETF wireless network, if you need wired connections, there's some tables here that have the ability for you to plug in and just have a wired connection into the IETF network. But if you need a separate network with some special things on it, where maybe some prefix delegation, or whatever you need for your protocol, whatever you're working on, you can let us know. You can request it, and we'll try to accommodate that. The NOC works with us to try to accommodate what you need. You'll find a link to that on the wiki as well, and how to access it and how to request special capabilities. The results presentation, I mentioned that briefly before. This just gives you a little bit more detail about it. Based on the number of teams I see here, I'm guessing that we'll have to limit the presentations to about 4 minutes each. So these are very short presentations, just to give people you know, the highlights of what your project was about and what you accomplished, and kind of think of them as conversation starters so that people can come up and have a more in-depth conversation at you at one of the other kind of opportunities that we provide for that. And I'll talk about those in just a second as well. So if you are planning on sharing your results, giving one of these presentations, the way that we do it is we have an IETF Hackathon GitHub organization. And within that organization, we have a repo that we created for this particular hackathon. And it's pretty simply labeled, although you may not be able to read it very well, IETF115 project presentations. And so what you'll do is you'll upload your presentation into that repo. In order to do that, and there's a link to the project presentations there. In order to upload, though, you need to actually become a member of the IETF Hackathon organization. And the way you do that is by sending a request to the hackathon chairs, and we will add you to that. And you can find our email address. There's an alias there on the wiki page, on the hackathon wiki page. So when you request that, we'll add you, and then you'll be able to upload your presentation there. Because when we do the project presentations at 2 o'clock tomorrow, what we basically do is we run through all the presentations that have been uploaded. So it's important that you have your presentation uploaded when we start that. And the README gives you some instructions about how to get added to the group, how to contact us, and how it all works. There's also a couple more things in there that I think I forgot to point out. When you go to that repo, you'll see some templates, and you're welcome to use those for your project presentations. There's a PowerPoint template. There's also an HTML template. You can use either one of those, and there's some directions and links there so that you can download those and use those. And that just helps make it a little, actually, I think they should be uploaded. I think they should be, I'll need to check. I think they should be updated for IETF 115 as opposed to IETF 114. I'll check that after we get through this. Then related implementations. This is a relatively new feature in the data tracker. And the idea behind it is, we mentioned that a lot of the stuff we're coding up here, right? It's closely related to IETF RFCs and drafts, but it's not always easy for people to find code that is related to IETF RFCs and drafts. So this related implementations is a way that you can create that linkage. So then on the data tracker, when people go to your IETF draft that you're working on, you have an implementation that's associated with it. Either you're implementing the draft or some tools that help with implementing or testing or sniffing traffic on the network related to that draft. So you can create that linkage here. And so when you go to the data tracker, you'll see something called additional resources. And if you click on that, you can then enter information about related implementations. There's a related implementations tag, and you can put that and then include the link to your GitHub repo or wherever the code happens to be. If it's an individual draft, you'll have the ability to do this yourself. If it's a working group draft, I believe you still need to work with your working group chair to make that happen. But the working group chairs are familiar with this, and they should be able to help you out. So really encourage you to do this, because we work on a lot of code in the hackathon, and then oftentimes, you know, it kind of gets forgotten, or people don't realize that there's this code associated with the draft or with the RFC. And this is a way that you can help others who aren't, you know, here in the hackathon, aren't working with the code on you, aren't working on the code with you, to help them find it. And then maybe they'll use it, maybe they'll contribute to it. But anyways, it gets it out there and helps people discover it. So I really appreciate it if you could do that. Many of you have indicated on the wiki, the hackathon wiki, the drafts that you're working on or that your code is associated with. And if you could go and also create that linkage, that'd be great. If you have any problems doing it, I'm happy to help. You can come see me up here, and we'll help get that sorted out. Any questions about that? Okay. So I mentioned that there's other opportunities to have more extended conversations around your project. And one great one is Hackdemo Happy Hour. So on Monday, when is it? It's from 6 to 7. I believe it's in this same room. And we'll have some space set up here with tables. And you have the whole hour then to kind of demo your project to whoever's interested. And that could include people who are here at the hackathon that see your presentation. It could be people that are here for the IETF meeting and weren't here at the hackathon at all, and now that they're interested in what you did. So this gives you the opportunity to have those more in-depth conversations that can't happen on a Sunday when we do the results presentation. So I encourage you to do that. If you're interested in doing it, you need to register, because that's how we know how many tables we have to get set up and all that, and that make sure we have enough space. And so make sure you do that by noon on Monday. And if so, then we'll make sure we have space to accommodate you. The Code Lounge, as was asked about, that'll be here, and that'll continue all week. We may not have this whole room, but we'll at least have a good amount of space where you can come and you're welcome to work on your code. And if it's helpful, you can schedule time, and there's a page you'll find where you can put on there, and some people have already done it. The L4S team has done that, and they can indicate when they plan to be here. And that's just to help others who might be interested in working on your project know when you're going to be here. So it's, you don't have to register, but I think it can be a handy thing. And there's no problem with multiple teams registering at the same time. That's actually a good thing, because we get a bit of critical mass here working on running code. So that's great to see too. Then I also want to make sure that I thank our sponsors. We actually have 2 sponsors this time. We have Meta, who's a running code sponsor at silver level, and then we have ICANN as a bronze level sponsor. And that's fantastic, because I mentioned we should have a nicer dinner. Those things cost money, and so it's really nice to get the sponsorship. Yeah, hi, Barry. You got a question? Yeah, I don't hear you. That mic was working earlier, I thought, but maybe not now.
So Charles covered this a little earlier at the beginning, but I just want to remind everybody that we are committed to wearing masks here at all times when you're not actively eating and drinking. Jay is wandering around with a taser, zapping people, with masks, handing them to people, and there are plenty of masks up at the registration desk. So please, if you are in the middle of working, please keep your masks on. Thanks.
Yeah, and we have really nice assortment of colors too, so that's kind of cool. And actually, that's the end of the presentation. If I appreciate your attention. I know you all are anxious to work on your project, but I also want to give people the opportunity to ask questions if there are any questions. Okay, well, great. Thanks again. Yes, please wear your mask. Please enjoy working on your project. So we do have a question here.
For people trying to collaborate off-site, is there a VPN or something to get into this room?
So I thought, I guess through Hacknet, you can. They can get onto the IETF network remotely through Hacknet. Now, the only problem with that is if they don't have a device already, like a MikroTik, they might have some problems, but that's the way for them to do it. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. Well, thanks again for your attention. Happy hacking.